everyone. Welcome to the Savvy Cast. Whether you're listening on the podcast or viewing on YouTube, thank you for joining. I am having a follow-up episode with my son-in-law and physical therapist, Sean Hiller. Sean, thank you for joining us for a second episode.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I know. I'm glad that you're back because we briefly touched upon something at the end of your podcast that basically talked about physical therapy and the different things that we need to consider in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very end, you discussed something that I think warrants its own podcast, especially for people who are probably in my demographic, in my age group, in the midlife.
Absolutely.
So I asked you to come back. So what we're going to talk about today is another aspect of Vulcan performance that is addressing the physical fitness aspect of those of us who want to be fit, want to be active, but feel like we need more private coaching. So can you just delve into the topic, explain to everyone what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give a little background on it too. So Master's Performance is what we're talking about, what we're calling. That's a fitness approach. That's how we address the fitness needs, the health needs. So my company, Vulcan Performance, are a big thing that we want to do, a big objective of ours. And actually, Ellie and I have a podcast on this objective called Impetus Health. Impetus just means a force to create change and trying to change health for the better. But we really want to make healthcare, the ground floor of healthcare, to become fitness oriented. Meaning that instead of people considering their first steps into healthcare being into a doctor's office, your first steps into healthcare are fitness, are ways to holistically help your body. So this is what we're trying to do. And a lot of times in physical therapy, we have people come in who, especially as we get older, our bodies tend to decondition, we get weaker, we get out of shape. Our heart's not as strong as it used to be. A lot of times in physical therapy, sorry about that, we're often just trying to make someone fitter. We're just trying to get someone in more shape and help their body become what we like to call more bulletproofed for the life that they're having to live, for what they're trying to do. So if we can, before physical therapy or maybe after physical therapy, if we can address these things, if we can bulletproof the body before, all of a sudden we can avoid a whole lot of pain. We can avoid a lot of surgery. We can avoid heart disease. We can avoid so many things if we can hone in our fitness. Okay. And as we get older, that does tend to get harder because our bodies aren't as resilient.
Right.
We made a joke today that's funny how when you're in 6th grade, you can go to physical education to PE and you can play in your blue jeans and your t-shirt for an hour, get fully sweaty and then just go to class. But when you're older, you sleep wrong and you all of a sudden you can't walk for a week. Like things just change. So as we get older, well, there's different needs. There's more needs there. So Master's Performance, we have put together this program to specifically address the needs as we age. So we're aging, our body's changing. What do we do to address it? So with Master's Performance, we assess. So we assess where is your body right now? Where are you as a human being? After we assess, we find your weaknesses, and then we set up a game plan to address the weaknesses that you have so we can start that bulletproofing process of keeping your body resilient for the life you want to live.
Well, and I'm sure that Zane would not mind. He's like he's an open book. You can use him as an example, and you can you also can use me.
Yeah, we can use some of our. Yeah,
we're both just starting. He started a few weeks ago. I think going to start next week. Master's Performance, but for entirely different reasons.
Absolutely.
And people listening or watching, everybody might have a different reason. So you might use us.
Yeah, so I can give a couple different examples here, and they wouldn't mind. I have consent from, but we'll talk about Zane. So Zane is Zane is a heck of an athlete. I'm gonna blow his ego up a little bit because I know he can, but he's 55 still. We think he can still touch the rim. We're not entirely sure. He hasn't tested it this year, but he's kind of worried about it.
He can, even if he can't.
Yeah, he'll
make himself touch it. No matter what it takes, just to prove that he can.
Exactly, and that's probably why he's doing this, so he can still touch the rim. But
that's right.
We know with Zane what we're specifically trying to do. Like we know, Zane is a phenomenon. He looks great, but some of the blood markers, some of the heart work are not where we want them to be.
We
So
got that from our internist.
yes,
And that was
yeah,
a red flag. And we were sharing that with you all around the dinner table. And you're like, okay. So for people out there listening, you're probably going to see those markers first from your doctor, correct?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
at routine blood work.
Yeah, and how's heart disease addressed most of the time? You know, where they put or try to put Zane on with statins, you know, some type of medication to help the heart control its blood pressure, control the heart rate. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that is not exactly holistic. You know, that is something. Statins have side effects. All of those drugs will have side effects, whether it's lethargy, whether it's, you know, even movement's affected. Your body doesn't operate as well when it's on medication. So we've been trying to get this under control, but we've started to set up our whole program. The whole Master Performance program is set up for Zane to help those blood markers. Like, we want to get his heart in check and hopefully wean off those statins so he's not facing the side effects of these drugs. Now, maybe we're not able to do that. We know that genetics is a huge part of our body. In fact, genetics may be up to 50% of really what's going on in your body. But we have a whole other side of the coin. We have a whole 50% that we can work with and really try to make our body, again, as resilient as we can possibly make it. And that's what we're trying to do with Zane. Zane moves well. We're not as worried about his movement as much, but we are worried about how his heart's doing. But if we flip that, we'll take somebody else. And again, this is super individualized. This is not the same cookie cutter approach. This is entirely set up for the person. So for someone else, for instance, we have a person who is with us and she's 91 years old and she's awesome. She will come in, and one of our big things with her is we want to keep her living at home. She doesn't want to have to go to an assisted living. She doesn't want, because when you go to assisted living, there's a time and a place. Again, they're great, but they're expensive. In Birmingham alone, if you go into an assisted living with insurance and all the costs associated with it, you're going to spend somewhere around $150,000 to $200,000 a year. That is incredible. So to pay for that, what do you have to do? You have to liquefy the home you've been living in for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. She doesn't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. So our whole game plan is set up. First off, how can we get, you know, the family on board? We need to have family help here to do a lot of these things. We have got to keep her in shape. We've got to keep her mobile. We've got to keep her independent to do the things that she want to do, so we don't have to do that. So depending on where you are, the program will look very different, but it's all designed to help you live the fullest life that you can possibly live. Also do it with some science behind it. So we've got the research. We know exactly how to train the person. In fact, we know if an older adult, that the most effective rep scheme for any type of movement we'll want to train is 5 to 7 sets of 7 to 9 reps with 6 seconds of time under tension and 30 seconds to 60 seconds of rest between sets. That's pretty exact. We have that research saying this is what we can do to progress this person regardless of age. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand, is they think, oh, I'm just old. You know, my body's just old. It can't really do anything anymore. That's just not true. We can get stronger at any age, and we know we can. We have the evidence, the research to back it.
Okay, so everyone is different and everyone comes to you for a different reason. So Zane's reason was blood work, and he got that from just a routine visit, but we've known this for a while.
Yeah.
Somebody else who might just be, say, 55 and want to get on a really good program and get really fit, no big issues. Do you require blood work, or do you say, or do you just do an assessment and go from there?
So we do our assessment. Our assessment tells us a lot. So we assess your movement. So that's going to be one of the top things. Do you have any limitations of movement? We assess that. We use quick screens to assess where the person is. And this is more specific for our older adults, our 60, 70, 80-year-old, 90-year-olds. But we're actually able to assess where the person is on the morbidity and mortality scale. So if they're if we're below the threshold on some of these morbidity, mortality scales, we've got to work on that.
You mean telling you, based on certain things you test, you can pretty much predict how long they're going to live?
Yes. Yeah. Some of these quick screens are pretty, like, for instance, the 6-minute walk test. If you don't walk fast enough, you don't cover enough ground in the amount of time, if your gait speed is below a 1.2 meters per second, then that means you're not independent. That means that it's really, really tough for you to live independent. And that's one of the measures we use to determine if someone should go into an assisted living facility.
Oh,
Other tests like our Fukuda step test, which is very exhaustive test, or a sit to stand, that's probably a better example, our 30-second time sit to stand test, that is a morbidity scale. So if you score below a certain threshold on that, your odds of living past the next 2 years aren't very good. So if we see that on one of these tests, man, we attack it. We get after it, like,
wow.
because we know there's a lot on the line here. We have to address this. But we assess the quick screens, then we assess your cardiovascular system. We look at heart rate, blood pressure. We look at all these different, we take these every time you walk in the door. We put a heart rate monitor on you, and we test your blood pressure at different times. And we test your respiratory rate, your respiratory system. We test all these things, and we're looking for those red flags, but we're also using it for progression to see how are you actually progressing through this program. We don't just start and then never test again. We retest about every 2 months to see where someone is. And
So
we're
this
able to see good progression.
hands-on, like when somebody, and I haven't started yet, so I
Mhm.
don't know, but I know Zane did his, it was an hour.
Yes, his initial assessment, he was with us for an hour. We didn't even finish it. We got about halfway through our initial assessment with Zane. And then I think the next time it was finished up. So really about 2 hours just of pure assessment, just so we get a good idea of where he is as a human being again. We know how to work away from that. And you mentioned, yes, if we have those measurements, and again, we're sending all those measurements to the doctors, to your primary care, to your cardiologist, so they can continue to see this progress, continue to see how you're doing. And if they see a red flag, we want them to have the right to reach out, say, hey, like their heart isn't doing very good. We need to do something about that. This is almost like a checkup. We want your doctors to know what's going on. So, but if we have all these measurements, all these metrics, we can really, really show you what you're doing as a human being. We call it our health track. We're tracking your health every step of the way. And I think it's invaluable to know that. And you can't really do that with, again, a cookie cutter approach. You can't really do that from an outside looking in approach. You got to be in the life of that person. You've got to be in you got to see the numbers for it. So that's really something we try to push. And you mentioned a 55-year-old. We actually have a few 55-year-olds working with us. And this is another good reason. One of them has really, really terrible osteoporosis. So
Yeah.
horrible bone scan. She had a DEXA scan. She's negative in a lot of areas, and negative typically means you have osteoporosis. We've been able to work on that a ton. In fact, when she first came in, she was osteoporotic in 6 areas. And she worked with us for, I want to say, 4 months. And now, instead of being osteoporotic in 6 areas, she just had a DEXA scan at the same place, same measurement. She's osteoporotic in 2. So we were able to take 4 of those off the table. And again, that's that resiliency and bulletproof body that we talked about at the beginning.
Wow. So really, whereas someone may come to you because they just want to get super duper fit, they
Yeah.
don't have a bad issue, blood work's great, DEXA scans are great, which that's sort of, I guess, my situation.
Yeah.
My blood work is green, 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 green. It's great. And I'm fairly, within a good weight range.
Yeah. Yeah.
But walking up the stairs, I can tell I'm breathing more than I should. I just know I do Pilates, but
Mhm.
I'm not getting my heart rate up. And then based upon the injury that I'm seeing you for, you said, Jamie, you need to get your heart rate up more. So
Yeah.
so I'm coming to you basically for a fitness program because we're members of several clubs. I don't go.
Yeah.
Waiting on my Peloton. All I do is that I love is
So
Pilates.
let's
But
put it into
I'm having
words.
accountability, and
Yeah.
to me, it's worth it to me to pay for someone to stand over me because I can't quit. I can't say,
Mhm.
oh, I'm tired. I'll just get off the bike. I
Yeah.
have to. So do you have people like that who they're pretty healthy, but they want to get in better shape? So it's almost like a personal trainer.
Absolutely. And that is a lot of it with. So we'll touch on your, what you're talking about for a second. And you're coming to us for that resiliency again. So this is most of our folks who have gone through this, they've had some run-ins with injuries and they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Right.
If they do deal with it, if they do have an injury, let it be a small thing. Let it be
Yeah,
something that's
yeah,
much easier to deal with than these issues that have lasted for years, and we'll be able to take care of it. And we think we have a really good scientific approach that helps us to do that and helps us bulletproof the body. So if you are healthy, but you've got this nagging stuff going on, kind of like what you do, we want to get you to a place to where those don't come up as much. When they do come up, they're a lot more easy to deal with. And the biggest thing, obviously, is your things like your heart disease and your respiratory disease. Those are the biggest things. Those are the ones that you go to the hospital and you don't come home from. So we want to make sure that we do everything we can to take those off the table. And if we do have nagging injuries, let them be musculoskeletal. Let them be something more simple that we can deal with. And again, so our coach for Master Performance is our main coach, our head coach is Rebecca Blackman, and she does a great job. She knows the body very well, but with Rebecca, she has us there as well. So half the time we're going back and forth. I'm asking Rebecca questions a lot. She's super intelligent. She's got a master's degree in sports management, and she's got a bachelor's in sports performance. She's really versed in a lot of these strength conditioning narratives. I'm asking her questions. She's asking me questions. Hey, so-and-so is talking about they have this nagging issue. Well, let me just see whenever they come in. Let's just take a look at it and see what's going on, and we'll alter the program. We're always altering things, always changing things, because a human being's pretty dynamic. Things change all the time. And if you have the same approach over and over again, you have the same eyes on them all the time, it's hard to see variables. So we try to address them the whole system.
Well, where does, and I don't know if she will with me, but where does Ellie come in with nutrition? Does she come in with every one of your clients or just ones who?
So again, with Master Performance, we address nutrition at a very basic level. For instance, our number, and it's the same thing that I asked you for physical therapy, we address in Master Performance. Are you drinking water? So again, if you remember the number
that was a real basic question with a very bad answer. No, I'm not drinking water.
So, all right.
Water,
so we love for people to get about 88 ounces of water in their body. That's the minimum. I would love for someone to come in telling me they drink 120 ounces of water a day, because water it's the oil of the body. If you have a car and you don't change your oil, that engine's going to run really hot. And you're going to have problems. It's the same for our body. Water is the great mediator. It helps everything. So we address the water intake. We ask, when they're coming in, we ask them about every week, hey, how much water are you drinking? We got to get that up. Protein. We always bring up protein. If you're not eating protein, then your body is not getting stronger and it's not rebuilding. Protein is the building block of everything. Okay. So if you're not sleeping, or if you are sleeping, but you don't have protein in your body, you're not really recovering. So those are the two biggest factors that we talk about. And what we find a lot of times with our older adults is they have a bowl of cereal and then they snack throughout the day, maybe never have any protein in. And a lot of times people are only drinking coffee and never getting any water in. So we've got to address the two issues. But where Ellie comes in is if someone is coming to us and they're saying, hey, I really need my nutrition. I really need my nutrition broken down at a scientific level, and let someone help me, coach me through how to do nutrition. How do I shop for things? How do I go and how do I know how to put my meals together? That's where Ellie comes in. It's a different service, but within the same
Right. Okay. Got it. Well, so Sean, for those listening or watching, what would you say to let them know if maybe this program might be something they would want to look at? And can you also address, because this is an issue for almost anyone, is any of this covered by insurance, and what are there different price packages that you can do?
Yeah, so Master Performance is not covered by insurance. It's fitness. The best way to describe this is personal training, but we really look at it from a healthcare perspective. So it's not covered by insurance. There are different,
like concierge fitness, really. It's like
that's what it is. And from a packaging perspective, the more times you come a week, the better results you're going to have, but the less it costs. So if you one time a week versus 3 times a week is a very different package. And if you come with a spouse, so for like when you and Zane are coming together, the price is much lower if you come with a spouse or something like that. And we have other discounts, and things of that nature.
And the spouse that can work out where you can come with your spouse if you're like Zane is with Rebecca, I'm with you.
Yes.
So if you live out of town, it's entirely possible that you could structure it to come with your spouse if you had one or the other.
Yeah, we totally can do that. I've found a lot of spouses don't want to be there at the same time. I'll just say that. So we've kind of planned that out too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so it totally depends on that. But it's set up to be, and we know our minimal effective dose for really anything we do in the strength conditioning world or in the fitness world is 3 days a week. So if you're coming 3 days a week to us, that's awesome. If you're coming 2 days a week, then we're going to work through those 2 days a week on your weaknesses, but we're going to try to get you doing something another day of the week to still hit that minimal effective dose. But yeah, and that's kind of like a general thing for most strength conditioning. If you're not doing it 3 days a week, you're probably not seeing the change you could see.
Oh, wow, that's good to know.
Hmm.
Okay. So for pricing,
Hmm.
consultation, all of this, probably good to see you virtually
Yeah,
or in person to see
yeah,
exactly what you need, what the package for you would look like.
absolutely. If you want to, so we do, if you're out of town, if you're looking for something online, we do virtual
Mhm.
master performance. We can get all the metrics, everything we need online, and we feel like, again, we have a really good product there. But if you're curious about what this is, contact us, let us know. We'll do a free kind of consult, but that consult you'll be moving, so you'll come in, you'll talk to us, kind of let you know what we do. We'll get an idea of where you are and actually see if this is something a good fit for you. And then we'll, regardless, either way, we're going to test some things. We're going to look at your quick screens. We're going to go ahead and do some of that
Yeah,
just so we can see where you are and we can give you a better idea of what our program can do for you once you've seen that. So reach out to us. We'd love to, we can do a free consult for that.
that's wonderful. Well, Sean, that is great. And I'll link to all of your information because I think it's a fabulous, I think its time has come as well, because I
Yeah.
think people more than ever want to stay fit for the right reasons, not necessarily for the way they look, although that does matter,
Yeah.
but for what's inside and how, just our well-being is going to affect whether we're independent or we are headed to a hospital or, worse.
Yeah.
So
If you want to live your unlimited life and do what you want to do, you have to do something like this, or else things are going to
yeah.
catch up to you.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
Sean, thank you. Thank you again
Thank
for being
you.
on, and I hope maybe I can have you back again. So
Yeah.
thanks.
I've loved this. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean.